Finding resources on Aberration can be a tough game indeed. They are certainly different to the ASE version of Aberration, so you really do need to know exactly where to go, and possibly may affect your building base locations. Worth noting, Aberration works on a traffic light system, with green being the easiest areas, blue certainly ramping up the difficulty, and red full of hazardous dangers around every corner, but the hardest zones you venture into will reap the largest rewards for resources in ARK. Let's go. So, fungal wood, it's everywhere. It's a resource that was introduced with Aberration back with ASA. It's going to be the wood you're going to find probably more than normal wood, and it's pretty much on every mushroom you encounter, and it's going to be needed to craft a bunch of different Aberration engrams. You can improve the farming efficiency by jumping on a roll rat, which collects a lot more in its mouth than your player does by hand. Now, the enigmatic question, metal, is certainly a very rare resource in the green zone, the offset of building in the easiest zones, and there's a very few selected areas of rich resource nodes throughout the green zone that really may reflect on exactly where you decide to build. Here are these locations, so perhaps build wisely. But the nodes in the bioluminescence zone don't look anything like the metal nodes you've known before in ARK. Instead, they're introduced with some phallic blue patterned pillars, and you will find these in absolute abundance throughout the blue zone. Literally every second rock you run into is going to reward you metal. With a few selected areas where the density is even greater, you really can't go wrong if you're going down here with an Anki. But pushing to the red zone, it's even greater. The metal nodes are rich and plentiful, but of course you're going to need to don yourself a hazard suit, but you are going to find so many metal nodes and gain so much metal in very quick succession. Don't forget about the traits to improve your Ankis in metal farming. Obsidian is as painful to gain as it was on ASE. You can have a guess where you've got to go by looking at these shots here. The dirty surface, it's up there, which means you're going to have a game just to get there. If you want plenty of obsidian in your life, you'll find these all over the surface. But if you venture into the bioluminescence, there is a few plentiful nodes in certain locations dotted around the blue zone, with even more knocking about in the hazardous red depths. But again, you're gonna certainly need to be prepared to get down for that. Need some crystal in your life? Aberration is abundant with that too, in not just the original crystal nodes that you know from the other maps, which are plentiful, dotted about all over these zones, from the green zone to the hot and heavy surface, down through to the bioluminescence, and even deeper into the Reaper-filled hazardous areas. You can't really go wrong for crystal, especially as it's rewarded through the green, blue, and red gems of the map. Green gems are coincidentally found within the green fertile zones and very clearly represented by these green spiky crystals, and dotted throughout the region from the portal area all the way through to the fertile lake. Coincidentally, blue gems are found in the blue zone and represented by blue pointy crystals there. Same deal like the green gems, but this time looking blue, and you're going to need plenty of these if you want to be crafting more of the intermediate Aberration engrams. But if you're not ready to brave the dangerous areas of the bioluminescence, there are a few cheeky areas just on the edge of green around these spots here, which you'll probably find to be your very first route to get blue gems. And then working towards the latter game Aberration engrams, you're going to need red gems, and guess what? They're found in the red zone too, represented by red crystals, and like the green zone, in the blue zone, right on the very edge, there are a few nodes you can just about reach without struggling to be beaten by the hazardous environment, so worth running for these first. If you're in a real desperate situation, you may not know this, roll rats offer all three types of gems if you can find one. Simply wait for one to dig into the ground, and once it pops back up, hey presto, you'll find a few gems. You'll find a few gems littered about for you, including, yes, blue and red gems too. But don't But don't forget, if you do pick up these gems, Mr. Roll Rat isn't going to be too happy about that, you stealing his gems, so get out quick and take your precious resources back to base as soon as you can. One other thing to note, and this applies to a lot of the resources on this list, is earthquakes, which you'll also find gems dropping too, though these are dependent on the regions you're in. So if you're in the green zone, you're probably only going to find green gems, possibly the odd blue gem, but definitely won't find red gems unless you go further towards the red zones, where you'll find in those areas red gems will drop too. Zed plants make the world go round. You're going to want these, you're going to need these if you want to tame a bunch of light pets and grow your own Zed plants to create your own Zed fruit. They're dotted all over the map, and simply standing next to one and waiting for some time to pass will see its weird tongue-like stem shrink back into itself and pop out a seed for you to use. Though if you want a few, you're going to be waiting there for a while. And oil, lucky for you, guess what? You're going to have to brave the surface once again. It's dotted about in quite chunky, large nodes all over the surface, but yes, it's the surface, so you're going to have to find a way up to get there. But if you don't fancy being chased by Reapers, you can find a bunch of oil nodes down by the rock drake nest. Of course, you're going to need a hazard suit for that, but maybe a bit easier with no Reapers around. But, you know, rock drakes are rock drakes, so make your decision on what you want to do there. And your path to elements now kind of superseded by being allowed to repeatedly run Rockwell to gain element now. But if you still want to grind your own element by crafting it in charge nodes, you're going to need element ore, and this is found all over the surfaces too. Just don't forget, you're going to need lots of it, as well as gems, all types of gems to craft element, and it takes a long time to craft element, but an alternative way to gain the endgame resource should you wish to. And keratin can be found represented by bones, which are littered throughout the surface entrances. If you head towards those, you'll find plenty of skulls and bones around. Harvest them, and that's your keratin sorted, which you're going to need if you want to make paste, because, well, beaver dams aren't around on this map. But black pearls are plentiful on this map, though you're going to have to dive deep down to the depths of Aberration into the red zone. But good grief, if you want black pearls, there is no better place than this map. If you've got a whip at hand, a very good whip at hand, you're going to find yourself farming plenty of black pearls, more than you should need. But getting down there, you're going to need to make hazard suits, and to make hazard suits, you're going to need gas balls. And gas balls are intermittently emitted from gas veins. You can find these all over the map. And whilst you can collect gas balls, the best way to gain gas balls is by crafting yourself a gas collector and placing it on top of one of those veins. I mean, it's a resource guide, right? So why not throw this one in there? But I'm sure you've probably already found these ones out yourself. Mushrooms are littered throughout the map. Just look for actual mushrooms. It's quite obvious when you hear it and when you say it, but you need to farm the actual mushrooms to gain mushrooms. You're not just going to get them from any plants, and they will offer all four of the mushroom types. That's ascorbic, aquatic, agaravic, and auric. And don't forget, these all apply buffs to your character, especially when wandering through spores that affect your player and may likely kill you. These may come in absolute clutch and possibly tame one of the 5 light pets. Another thing that's plentiful like black pearls on this map is poly. Organic poly is absolutely brimming with the stuff if you know where to look. If you go into the red hazard zones, you'll find these things, poly plants, and they are absolutely everywhere. There's giant clusters all through the red zone. Handpicking them will see you rewarded with plenty, but I can't express this enough. Get a dire bear, jump on a dire bear, go down there, harvest, and you will never need organic poly ever again. Alternatively, if you've got a chainsaw at hand, go and kill yourself a Carcinos, because if you do that and you push your chainsaw into it and you press the melee button, you'll find a wealth of organic polymer harvested from these too. And I'm sure by this point, and probably a reason why you're checking this guide out, is silica pearls. They are very rare on this map now, rarer than they were on the ASE version of this map. No idea why, but I guess Wildcard decided to make that a thing. You won't find them in some spots that you did before, but they are still available for you to farm. You just need to know where to look. Of course, using an anglerfish will see you farm much more in quicker succession. And before you think, hang on a minute, how can I move an anglerfish around? Fish baskets are a thing. Don't forget, you can put anglerfishes into your fish baskets to move them to the silica pearl spots that you need to farm much more than you ever will by hand. And speaking of anglerfishes, thank you for angler gel. And something else you can kill to get resources is jellyfish for biotoxin. They're in the most dangerous areas and an absolute pain to kill if you really want to reward yourself with biotoxin. But there's an easier way to gain yourself biotoxin, ladies and gents, and that's by simply running to these mushrooms while mounting an iguanodon. And you should farm enough biotoxin rather than braving the dirty aquatic depths. And chitin, you know, keratin you can farm, chitin you can't farm by hand, but you can kill things to gain chitin, and there's a few things out there that give you plenty of chitin. Lest we forget, the carcinos that I just mentioned will give you plenty of that, but bugs are around as well as a few other creatures on the map. And looking to tame any carnivore, then mutton is the way. Prime meat's not too bad, but mutton is certainly a better thing to farm. And you farm these by killing sheep. There's plenty of them all over Aberration, not forgetting that they reward you plenty of wool on top. And perhaps the biggest question I've seen in your comments is honey. Where is honey? Why is honey? Who is honey? I mean, bees, right? There's beehives around the map. You go to those, you grab those, they give you honey. That's how you get honey. Alternatively, melee them with a bear, or most definitely tame a bee. Get a bee out of a beehive, place it down, you now have producing honey on the fly. Acatinas, they make paste. You could tame them and they produce them for you. But, you know, you've got to keep them alive, and sweet veggie cakes are something you need to craft. You're going to need honey and then sap and then everything to keep that paste being produced. But, you know, that's an option there for you if you want to. And to get sap, all you need to do is make a tree sap tap. Go to any of these trees, pop one in, job done. You now have sap being produced for you on the fly, and there's plenty of these trees knocking about, so job done there. And then if you want to raise rock drakes or take on the big almighty tentacly monster rock, well, you're going to need Nameless venom, and that is farmed by obviously Nameless, that spawn all over the blue and red zones if you haven't got a light pet at hand. And that's it, that's your lot. Obviously things like stone and flint, it should be very obvious how you farm that. Simply just hit a rock, job done there. And hopefully I caught them all. If I didn't, comment below, let me know. Until the next one, my name's Raasclark. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and as always, peace out.